Three, two, one, go.
Sound guy.
I love it. But last time we were Dom, we were already talking. You were just like 3, 2, 1, go, and we were just already talking. Like, that works. That works great.
Way more organic that way.
Well, yeah, just 3, 2, 1, go.
Yeah,
we've always.
You got to surprise everyone.
Yeah.
So we are. What are we gonna talk about?
Something like that.
Yeah, so what are we gonna talk about?
What are we gonna talk about?
That's the question.
For some reason, every time I type in what are we gonna talk about, I have to type it in like 3 or 4 times to actually pull it up. I don't understand it. I type the same exact thing in, but it won't come up. And then 3 or 4 times later, I type it in, and there it pops up. I'm not sure.
I just subscribe to you guys.
Yeah,
that works too.
That's all I do.
Your thing.
Like and subscribe.
Yeah, like and subscribe.
You can check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple,
BitChute.
That's it for now. I might try to get us up on Odyssey, Rumble.
What gets watched the most, or I should say, what gets played the most? YouTube, Spotify?
Well, I mean, it's kind of a split. For us, it's a split between Spotify and YouTube.
That's
There's a bigger one.
But it seems like I would probably say 2/3 is Spotify. Spotify / Apple, so audio only.
There's been a couple episodes where we've got 200 some listeners.
Mm-hmm.
But like, how many subscribers or whatever, or how that works to where you guys can start getting paid?
Well, I mean, that's like the alternative platforms I kind of been looking to is like there's a few alternative platforms that allow for tipping and like, I mean, you could gamble on it, I guess, but I don't know what you would gamble on during our show, but you could.
Play dumb games like every time Cody takes a drink. Whatever.
There you go.
That is a good one.
But like, so I'm kind of been looking at like D-Live is one, but it's more of and they're all crypto based. I love crypto. And so they're all crypto based, the ones I'm looking at. D-Live is one of those, but it's more for live streaming. But Rumble is one of the alternatives, and that one's, you can't tip or anything like that.
Rumble?
But YouTube mostly, for any video streaming, you got to be on YouTube too, until you're banned.
Have you guys had any banned episodes?
No.
We should make one.
I mean, you just gotta talk about the Fauci juice enough, and then you'll eventually get banned.
Anti-vaccines just ban you immediately.
Exactly.
Yep. But today we have again back on Dom and Dominick. My bad. I apologize. I apologize.
You're fine.
Dominick.
You're fine.
And a new guest, Cody. What's your last name? Smith. Okay, Cody Smith. Again, we met Dominick at Jiu-Jitsu and also Cody at Jiu-Jitsu at our local. And Cody, tell us about yourself, man.
I mean, I lived in the area forever. And then, I graduated from New Knoxville. So I graduated with, I want to say 32 people. Solid. Something like that.
Big classes.
Yep, 32 people. I know my junior year, I think we had 52 boys in the whole high school.
Have you went to like a high school reunion?
I went to one.
Did everybody show up?
Most.
All 50
most, yeah. And I remember being like...
You could just get the side room out of Applebee's for that.
That's sad. I remember saying that a lot. But we had a pretty successful class. Like, we had a pretty athletic class, and our class was...
Go-getters.
They were pretty good.
Small schools, I could see. I feel like they pump out a lot of people that are very productive.
Our class, like, I don't remember what it was, but the basketball team went a staggering amount of games in a row undefeated. Like, they were... Not me. I was not a basketball player. But we had some guys that played D1 ball, I think. Several collegiate sport players, and then me who did professional mixed martial arts. And, like, it was an athletically gifted group.
Did that start? Did the mixed martial arts start in high school?
I had my first fight at the beginning of my junior year.
Where was that?
My first fight was in Chicago. Yeah, Chicago. It was an amateur fight. And I got beat. I went 0-3 in my first 3 fights.
But like when you was going to go to the fight, did your school make a big deal about it?
Not
Or
the
the
school.
town?
The town kind of did a little bit. A lot of my friends did. When it really, they had like a big one was when I made my first pay-per-view fight. That was kind of big. I had like some local restaurants and stuff sponsor me for that. And then I had a fight in, I want to say it was Lima. And I think there were like 250 people there that knew me, and that one was a
cool.
pretty big one. They all showed up, and it's probably in my top 2 favorite fights because everybody that was there, I started to walk out, and as my music started playing, and it was God dang, I can't remember. It was a Disturbed song, but I can't remember
Down
what
with the
song it
Sickness or
was.
something?
It wasn't Down with the Sickness. But whatever song it was, it started playing, and the whole group of people stood up and started chanting Cody over and over.
Like
Cody,
everybody knew that was
Cody.
your song.
Yeah, and it was cool because I walked through them. In that particular time, it was like we walked right between that group of people, and it was.
Like you felt like a badass.
It was the first time I was like, yeah, like people are here for me. And I was in the co-main event. So that one was kind of a big deal for me, but that was my senior year. And that was the last one I did in Ohio.
You got paid for it, right?
That one. Yeah.
Like these, like hundreds or
You got to remember this was 2008. I mean, I did shows where we made borderline nothing. Like we got paid for the gas to get there.
When did you start?
Yeah.
When did you start like training for fighting?
16.
So you were just like out of the gate, like I'm gonna go.
But you could fight before you started training to fight.
I grew up with an older brother who is handy in a street fight. We'll put it that way.
He kicked the shit out of you.
And he kicked the snot out of me, man, for like my entire life. And it's funny because I'm a nerd at heart. I'm a mega nerd at heart. And I grew up, all my friends were nerds. And there was one particular time where a guy was picking on me, and I was scared to death. I remember being like terrified of it. Like I was so scared. And long story short, I ended up talking to my brother about it, and I don't even know. He probably doesn't remember it. My older brother was like, "So what are you going to do about it?" And I just remember like it was a paradigm shift in my head. Like, what am I going to do about it?
I'm gonna sucker punch this dude.
And no, I never did that. But I ended up getting into judo. And I mean, like I said, we didn't have a lot of money growing up. So I remember getting like some judo classes for a Christmas present, and I was like, "Oh, this is it! Like this is it."
I'm learning.
But it turned into my world. It went from 0 to this is all I do.
Obsessed.
Like that. And I did pretty good at judo. I mean, I had competed in like some pretty big tournaments and stuff like that. And then the guy that was doing the judo teaching, though, he was a big con artist, is what he was.
I remember you saying this.
He was a big con artist. If I could find him now, I'd probably knock a lump on his head. But he was always talking smack about this other jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai instructor who was teaching fighting. And my older brother knew him. My older brother was like, "Yeah, you should probably get in, like getting close with that guy. It would do you well." And I just remember being like, my instructor says he's a joke. And then I sat in on one of his classes and I was like, huh, interesting. He knows what he's doing. And
He was one of those fake. Well, like, was your
no,
original one?
he was a good instructor. I mean, he got me through some big tournaments and stuff. He was a former WWE wrestler.
Wow.
What was the name?
Pat Tanaka. He was in the Orient Express.
Yeah, I've heard the Orient Express, and I
Yeah,
think Tanaka
so-
sounds familiar.
Yeah, I would Tanaka lump on his head. But yeah, so I got into training with him, and it was real fast. It was like 6 months into training. He was like, "Hey, you want to do a Muay Thai fight?" I'm like, not even 17 yet. And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And went and did a Muay Thai fight. The first Muay Thai fight, I got my sternum broke. I won the fight. But my first Muay Thai fight ever, I got my sternum broke. And that one was a rough one. And then went on to do a bunch of MMA fights. We did quite a few jiu-jitsu tournaments, stuff like that. And then when I graduated high school, I moved immediately out to Las Vegas. And
So your career there.
yeah.
What do you like better? The jiu-jitsu, judo, Muay Thai? Or I should say, what's more challenging for you?
Muay Thai is more physically punishing.
Yeah. I can see
If you do jiu-jitsu, like, okay, so like when I roll with you guys, I roll with you and I don't damage anything. I don't hurt you. You know what I mean? Like I might make you uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I think I say that while I'm grappling you a lot. I'm like, I'm going to make you uncomfortable. But
It's not like you're trying to inflict damage.
no, but Muay Thai, like,
You're trying to
you
inflict
kind of have
damage.
to. You know what I mean? Like,
You got to toughen up your shins and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like when you said you were just kicking each other's shins.
Shin to shin.
repeatedly.
We would do that all the time.
Hey, no, but have you seen those guys that kick like banana trees? Are those Muay Thai fighters? Like they're just toughening up their shins?
Yeah.
Like, dude, they are snapping these things in half. Like, I don't know if you've seen those videos.
Yeah, is that, you think that's
yeah.
a byproduct of like overtraining Muay Thai?
Well, so the idea is your bones are really porous,
Yeah.
right? And every time you hit something and put a little crack in it, your bones grow a little denser. And then you hit them again and you put a little crack in it, and then they grow a little denser, and eventually they turn into this. That's the idea. And you can do that with your shins. You start hitting stuff with your shins over and over and deadening those nerves. And
I was watching a video, and I think they were Shaolin monks, but like as kids, they were like just punching sand constantly. And I guess it will bruise the knuckles and hands and make them tougher.
yeah. Well, I mean, even if you look at my hands, I'm not that big of a dude, but I have lunch boxes for hands.
Thick hands.
Thick, giant palms. Like I got big palms. Dumb little fingers. Like I got short, stumpy, little weird fingers. But if you look at my hand, like
They look
it's,
rough.
Yeah.
it's a hard thing, and a lot
You
of
can
that.
tell there's like more padding on your knuckles.
Yeah, there's a lot to it, and I still think a lot of that's from doing Muay Thai.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I mean, as you stress yourself more and more, it's just going to build.
Well, and that's the other thing too, is like in Muay Thai, you're getting punched a lot. So to train for it, you kind of have to get punched a lot. And to
Was
get
it face
comfortable-
face punches too?
Oh yeah, you get smoked, man.
You get like broken nose?
I've had my nose broke more times than I can count. In fact, I had a fight in, I want to say it was Troy. I had a fight where my nose got broken the first round. The guy that was cornering me set my nose in between rounds. Second round, re-broke. It was a 5-round fight, and he had to reset my nose between all fights. It went all 5 rounds.
No.
I'd be like,
rough.
I can't see out of my right eye. He'd be like, I'll fix it. He'd put it back in place, and I'd go back to going.
So like for people who don't really know, like what's the difference between like Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu and stuff that you first went into? Judo.
So judo is throws primarily. It is some grappling, but you don't get the same amount of time on the ground as you do in jiu-jitsu. They'll stand you up after a certain amount of time.
Okay.
Jiu-jitsu is submissions. Jiu-jitsu is to put someone in a position where their only means of escape is to tap out, to pass out, or something breaks. Like that's the idea. And then Muay Thai, they call it the 8 of art limb, the 8 of art limbs, the art of 8 limbs. So you've got your hands, so 1, 2, elbows, 3, 4, knees, 5, 6, feet, 7, 8. And it's a lot of punch, kicks, elbows, knees. But Muay Thai also incorporates a lot of tosses and throws and a lot of like clinch work in Muay Thai. It's very strange. You'll see Muay Thai guys that can, like I can hug you and throw a kick just as hard to your leg as if I'm standing out. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
They have some very strange ways of like how Muay Thai.
Is it like still an endurance deal where it's like because I've noticed the fights that I've watched, like a lot of Muay Thai people, they'll constantly just kick the person's thigh, just over and over and over and over and over.
It seems
again.
like that they just stand 2 feet away from each other and start trying to throw and kick and stuff.
A lot of times,
it
yeah.
doesn't seem like they move a lot.
Yeah, it's a different game than boxing. Like you watch boxers and they bounce and they they dance around each other, and Muay Thai is different. But Muay Thai is also, and I guess I could be wrong about this, but in my mind, Thai people, they're not huge people.
It's true. No,
And
that's true.
in order to be effective in a fight against a bigger person, you got to be able to take some punishment.
Yeah.
I mean, it's downright how it's
Well, it's
gonna
like
be.
all of that whole continent. It's like they're shorter on average.
Shorter, smaller.
Yeah.
There was a guy who did Muay Thai for a long time before he switched to MMA at the gym that I did, and I don't remember exactly what it was, but I think he claimed his Muay Thai record was 108-8.
108-8.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
And I believe it. He was tiny. He was this itty bitty little guy. I kicked pretty hard. He made me look like nothing. He'd kick so hard, there'd be times he'd hit me, and I'd be like, yeah, I'm just going to grapple you. I'd grab him, throw him to the ground, and tap him out. I'm like, I'm not getting kicked again.
I could see that, though. Just the amount of speed you can put on a kick at, like, especially smaller people.
Yeah.
Just that power that comes from the hips and everything.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
When it's almost, you have to perfect that. If you're smaller, you naturally just are going to have to perfect the skill of it more than the
You
actual
get
kick.
You get the center of gravity better. The smaller people usually do. Probably. Boom.
Well,
Easy, easier.
it's a lot of like body mass. You know, a guy that's 6'5" and 280s, if he doesn't have as good a technique throwing a kick, guess what? It's still a lot of meat coming your
exactly.
way, you know? So that was one of my things with Brock Lesnar when he got into the UFC. I was always like, he's big and he's athletic. He's not really all that great of a fighter.
But he has enough power and
Yeah.
like strength that he could.
Could you imagine that guy charging you? Like, what are
Yeah.
you going to do?
Exactly.
You know, like,
Wasn't he like a championship wrestler though?
yeah,
Like-
he was a
like-
big WWE guy.
No, I mean like college.
Oh yeah,
Like,
he was a big. I think he wrestled D1 maybe. I want to say he even tried out for the NFL at one point too.
I think you did.
I could see that.
So he was just like this big athletic powerhouse. And like I said, I mean, don't get me wrong, he wasn't a bad fighter, but he wasn't.
Skill wasn't like there was a lot of skill, like as much skill as a smaller fighter.
Correct.
Yeah.
Probably didn't have a lot of mixed martial arts. It was
Correct.
probably just single kind of stuff.
Yeah. But again, like, what are you going to do against a guy like that?
I feel like it's almost, there's different fighting styles that you should learn just based off your size alone.
Yeah.
Like, because like you said, probably the Asian martial arts take advantage of just like your own body like what you can do with it and the skill of like throws and whatever. While someone like that's ginormous just needs to know how to like
Get
put
to
it,
ya.
just get to you and hold on to you.
Yeah. Well, if you look at it, a lot of the Asian martial arts too are a lot of points. They'll hit like, I'm going to hit you here, not I'm going to hit you. I'm going to hit you
Yeah.
right there, and yeah,
Just
it
like
makes
obvious.
sense.
That's
It
like-
makes sense to me.
Just kind of
Oh,
like in
yeah.
the Olympics this year, that one guy won gold because the other guy knocked him out.
yeah,
He lost. Like I thought that was weird. It
What happened?
was like was karate, wasn't it?
I think it was karate.
It was karate, and the person who won gold actually got knocked out because apparently you're not allowed knocking people out in karate or something like that. You're just touching
In
them
certain
almost.
things, yeah, it's
Touch-
point
like,
sparring.
Yeah.
Touch you here,
Yeah.
stop you from touching me. Yeah.
It's a completely different animal.
Yeah, it is.
And that's one of the reasons I liked Muay Thai better than. Don't get me wrong, karate is an incredibly efficient martial art. I will never talk crap about karate. What was his name? Lyoto Machida was a perfect example of it in the UFC. He took. I don't know if it stayed this way, but I know at one point he averaged getting hit once every 2.5 rounds or something staggering.
Once every 2.5 rounds.
Yeah, it was something ridiculous. Don't quote me on that, but it was something ridiculous
yeah.
like that. And he was a karate black belt. Like, guess what? The best fighter in the world would take the smallest amount of punishment that he can and deliver more punishment than that. And he was a karate practitioner. But for me, I was always like, yeah, but if I can kick you in that leg hard enough to break your other leg, that's really efficient to me.
That's very true.
So it was a different thought process to me, and plus the instructor I had was, so technically my black belt is in Dragon Kempo and submissions, but it's like a hybrid of Kempo, Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, several different things in there all at the same time.
I feel like it's turning that way. Well, not like I know a lot, but like it slowly has. You're seeing all of these martial arts kind of like branch out from these main, like, because you have the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu and then Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Japanese.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it all really came from, especially the UFC. When the UFC started, it seemed like more and more people started to like, all right, what's another way I could kick your ass? That doesn't work. Okay, I'm going to try this way to kick it. And they all started to kind of intermingling or
mix,
mingle into each other.
You had Hoyce, who was not a big guy, and he was in there smoking everybody. Mm-hmm. And they were like, wait.
How is this working?
You know what I mean? So, yeah.
It's almost like they copy what they see. Well, I mean, I feel like there's only so many different ways you could throw a punch, just the same as there's only so many different ways you could throw a kick.
Right, but then you get guys like, people talk a lot of smack about Conor McGregor, but his fighting style is like something we've never quite seen before in the UFC. He's got this weird timing accuracy thing that kind of got lost. That's why he was a good boxer. Like he wasn't like, it was almost, it's like I think of like the drunken boxer almost. Yeah. Like he was real loose and fluid, and
he seemed like he always had his left hand down, was kind of just waiting for like a little quick jab almost. That's what it seemed.
It seems like he like tried to hit you at angles that would make most people fall over. And I mean, I think that's why he was so good. I love Conor McGregor, but people hate him.
I think he's one of the smartest dudes. After his last fight, I was like, come on, Conor, show me a little class here. But he's one of the smartest dudes in MMA. At the end of the day, there's a reason that he made the amount of money he did. He's one of the smartest dudes in MMA.
Hey, he just sold his liquor, like that Proper 12, like he sold it. And they paid him $300 million. That's insane.
Right into the sunset.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And I feel like that's all he wanted to do was just run his mouth, make money, and he's gone. Yeah.
One of his first UFC fight that he won, I remember him. He grabbed the mic and he was like, 50 G's, baby. And now he's like, I'm going to go fight Floyd Mayweather for a few.
That was $100 million.
I feel like you only have a set amount of fights though. At that level, it's like you can't just. Or very few people. I'm not saying you can't, but like very few people can be like, I'm going to continue fighting constantly.
I feel a difference in it.
I
wasn't even at that level, but I know that my body. There are things that happen from fighting. I'm sure the Marine Corps didn't help, but and I did get hurt in the Marine Corps, but there are things from fighting where I know I took punishment.
Yeah, exactly.
I had a fight where I broke my jaw, and in one fight I took 350 shots to the head.
350 shots in the head.
Did you win?
No. No.
Well, it's like
I got smoked.
Well, not only that, it's like the adrenaline too, because you only have like your body works as you're always going to sacrifice now for tomorrow. Like, so meaning like I will lose this arm just so I live, or same with the fight or flight. So it's like you release it. You can produce more adrenaline, but it's only like a finite amount of times your body's going to sacrifice itself, and then you start to get used to it.
Well, and I notice it in my cognitive function a little bit. We also did a lot of hard sparring. And when I ended up going out to Vegas and I trained with Vanderlei, that's the gym that I got into, which I can tell you how that ended up working, and it's one of the craziest stories ever. But they're valet tudo fighters. Like the first time I sparred Vanderlei is it's the first day I was there. And he says this, okay, now I'm going to try to knock you out and you try to knock me out, no? And I was like, I'm 135 pounds and I've only had a handful of pro fights and you're world champion 205 fighter. Okay. And he hit me. The first time he hit me, my toes went numb.
Like, do you think he hit you as hard as he could?
No. He hit me hard.
Was you wearing like headgear?
No. Hell no.
I didn't know how that worked.
No, we were wearing shin guards and we were wearing boxing gloves. But yeah, I very specifically, because he was kind of like cracking me a few pretty decent ones. Not bad, just kind of like feeling me out.
Did you hit him?
And I hit him hard. Nice. I hit him really hard, and I watched it in his face, and I was like, oh, no.
You're going to pay for that one.
And he threw this weird looping shot, and I went to block it, and it squeezed right between here, and it hit me right in the ear. And I just remember hearing, beep, and then my toes went numb. And I was like, uh-oh. And then I was all defense the rest of the fight, and he just was like, come on, and he beat the snot out of me some more. So that was the first time I fought, like, I got humbled very fast when I moved to Vegas is what happened.
Was there any other like popular fighters coming out of his gym?
Yeah, and see, the other thing too was like there was a lot of cross training going on. So Vanderlei was in there. There's a guy named Mike White that was in there. He was pretty big. But I got to, because I didn't just train there. There were a few other gyms that I got to do some training at, and there were some big UFC names that I got to fight against, you know. Got to train at Randy Couture's gym one time. That was wild.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, that was pretty wild. Man, now Kevin Randleman. I got to meet Kevin Randleman. Got to grapple him one time. I got a hold of his legs, and my arms didn't reach around his legs.
Is that the black dude with the dyed hair?
Jacked.
Yeah.
Just jacked.
Oh,
I think he's
my
dead,
gosh.
actually. I think he died. But I did, like, as soon as I got his legs, I was like, I can't get my arms around your legs. His legs are bigger than my core. And that was interesting. So, yeah, I mean, I had some pretty cool opportunities out there. Didn't do as much with it as I'd have liked to, but I ended up going into the Marine Corps instead. So.
Still an experience.
Oh, yeah.
No matter how far you made it.
Yeah, it was a blast.
Yeah.
I made it further than most.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
plus, it's like the amount of skill now that you just have in defense is
Yeah.
like that was probably made the Marine Corps pretty easy.
I don't know about that.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't say easy,
But-
but like the physical combat part of it was
Yeah.
probably very easy.
Yeah, the self-defense part of it. Well, how old were you when you went into the Marines?
19.
19. Okay.
Yeah. And then I did 2.5 years in the Marine Corps and then got out. And I did one fight out of the Marine Corps just to prove I could still do it. I messed my shoulder up pretty bad, messed my back up pretty bad while I was in the Marine Corps. And ended up doing one just to be like, yeah, I can still do this, you know?
Oh yeah, prove it.
And, yeah, it was in Tough Enough, which is the show that, man, now I'm drawing a blank on her name. What's her name? The chick that went like 9 arm bars in a row.
Ronda Rousey.
Ronda Rousey. She got her start in Tough Enough.
Was that the fight where you broke that dude's arm?
Yeah.
We should pull the video. It is cool though.
Well, I remember, so I had trained like about this much for that fight. It was literally one of those things where I was like, I'm going to go. Why not?
Did you know that dude beforehand? Like, have you heard of him? Like, so he.
No clue. No clue. It was just, I figured the worst that was going to happen, I'm getting knocked out. Like, worst is going to happen, I'm getting knocked out. I'll be all right.
Well, a lot of people just getting knocked out, you don't really know what happened.
I've never been knocked out in a fight. I've been knocked out in the gym twice.
What is it? Tough Enough?
TUFF, NUFF. If you type in Cody Smith Tough, TUFF, it'll come up.
I just went Cody Smith MMA and it pops up.
Yeah.
Well, I'm on Yahoo.
Is that Bull Rider?
Do it on YouTube.
Okay.
Just go right to YouTube.
No, isn't it right there? Cody Smith versus Brandon.
Brandon Rowland,
Yeah.
I think that was his name. Yeah.
Yeah, it's after. Yeah,
Yep.
That's solid.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I don't think it's showing the.
No, that's just showing a fight recap.
Can you just go to YouTube? Yeah. You know, my thing is I'm not afraid to get knocked out or choked out. I just don't want to shit myself. No, 100% big fear.
I could see that top one there.
Like Frank choked me out one day, and like
you tell me about that.
dude, I didn't know anything. Like I felt my vision getting smaller, and I'm like, oh,
Dude, I could
remember
just
that. I
feel
was
it
there.
slowly. Like it was, you were still fighting back, and then you tried to do one last thing. I remember like you kind of got me to roll with you, and I rolled on top of you. And I was about to put you in an arm bar, but then you were just like,
yeah. I don't really remember much, but
I got knocked out one time grappling, and it was from another guy grappling. They were rolling, and they rolled over, and the guy healed me right in the head and put me unconscious.
Huh.
And then the other time I got knocked out, we were sparring, and we were sparring pretty hard, and I was beating the guy pretty good. And I went to Superman punch him, and I jumped, and as I jumped, this guy just went, wah, and just smoked me and put me out. But I remember in this fight, I just knew I was going to, I wanted to
punches you a good one.
Yeah, I wanted to kick him right there. He broke my nose. But I remember.
You taught me that move, like to get to the side.
Get to the side, yeah. But I just remember, like, I just wanted to kick him. I was like, if I kick him really hard,
I could take him out.
yeah. And then he caught me with that shot. And this fight, they wouldn't let, if you were bleeding, they'd stop the fight.
Like disqualify you?
Yeah, it'd be like you lose.
sucks.
Really?
So I was sucking up sucking up the blood and swallowing it over and over. And there's a few spots, if you listen to the commentary, you can hear the guy say, I think Cody Smith's bleeding out of his nose a little bit. See, he just said. But I remember going, man, I got to end this real fast. And I hit him with some ground and pound, and then he gave me his arm, and I just took it. But I didn't mean to break his arm, but if you watch, his grip pops right here. Boom. And it just...
Dude, that's gnarly. You're
Yeah.
like, yeah, son.
Yeah.
Who was there, family-wise?
So this one was really cool, too. This is probably my favorite fight ever because I was living in Vegas. My wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, I've been with my wife for 16 years.
Oh, wow.
So she was with me there. But my wife was there. My cousin fought on this card.
Okay.
One of my cousins fought on this card, too.
What weight are you right now?
135.
And that is what?
Bantamweight.
Oh yeah, you just snap it.
Yep.
Like right.
Yep. So
You can tell you're
that's
snapping.
my older brother right there.
I can imagine you getting good at fighting if that was your older brother.
Yeah, he's a monster, dude.
He broke his arm, and he's moving it pretty well.
He did all the way until the end. Once they got back there, he was hurting pretty good. He had some adrenaline going and whatever.
Like, did you feel like a badass right here?
I was really excited to have won this was like my quote unquote retirement fight. You know what I mean? So it felt really good to do that.
Mm-hmm,
You
to
know
prove
what I
it to
mean?
yourself.
Yeah, I could still do it. And like I said, I had barely trained for this. And I
you
had
can tell in his face, he's holding
Yeah.
it.
And I had a really hard weight cut for this fight too.
Was that in Finley?
That was in Vegas.
Oh, it just says Finley. Well, okay.
Yeah, but that's my older brother. He's a Marine as well.
Could you kick his ass now?
I don't want to find out. Me and him have had this discussion, and we just won't ever do it because we don't want to know. When I was 135 pounds, even at that level, he could beat me. Now that I'm bigger and he's a little older, we don't know. He's 11 years older than me, so we don't know. It's one of them things where we'll never find out truly because we don't want to. We don't want to know. You know what I mean?
I can respect that.
You don't need to.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, like, I know there are very few men in this world that I'd be like, no, I'm good. He's one of them. He's definitely one of them.
It's like I always think of whenever a person that comes to mind when somebody says that is Kimbo Slice. Like I can't imagine. Like, you remember that show where he would go and pay people to punch him,
Yep.
let him punch them, and he would
I
just.
don't remember that, no.
Yeah, he used to literally pay people to.
Just punch him.
Kimbo didn't have a really good record in MMA, did he?
No, they built a whole promotion around him, like a whole fight that was like, we got the Kimbo Slice, you know what I mean?
But you know who came out of that was that dude they call Game Bread, that Masvidal, whatever.
Yeah.
He was fighting when Kimbo fighting.
Yeah.
I think that dude
I think
has
you're
some
right.
skill.
Yeah, and he's very good. Kimbo was a really good boxer. I mean, he was a decent boxer, but
Like I remember his first like real TV fight, and I think he gassed super early.
yeah, he fought a guy, and it was one of the most embarrassing fights. They ended up
The
they're
dude had
standing-
like big ears, right?
Yeah.
Like he had, yeah.
and they're standing going, just staring at each other. So,
I'll say,
Yeah, this was a show. He would just pay people to let him punch them.
Dude, there's I mean, your hospital bill
Kimbo
is going to be more than what he's
He would
paying.
put a
you.
glove on too.
here's the thing: Kimbo's a big boy. Like even if he wasn't a good fighter,
Oh, look at him with the glove on.
Kimbo's a big boy. That's a lot of ass behind that punch, you know. So
And I think he pays this guy like $500 to let him punch him
In the face?
in the chest,
he's a skinny little fella too.
$500. I would punch him for $500.
or maybe in the gut.
Ugh.
Kimbo Slice.
Oh, this is another guy. Oh, I see what they're doing.
Oh, he's like, I got this. Harry Houdini here.
Morons.
Then you let Kimbo slice.
So you know one of the things we used to do to prepare for body shots? We used to do sprints. And at the end of the sprints, we'd have to stand with our hand on our head, and the other guy would just pop, tee off.
You're breathing hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Dude, I remember when you had me like a clinch and you kind of just like showing us something, but when you like went up a knee, like you brought your knee up, I thought it was like one of the scariest things I've ever seen. I was like, holy cow, that
Dude,
that knee. And
that
you're,
was broken ribs right there.
Yeah.
Probably.
oh, he's
Like
done for a while.
100%.
Yeah, probably. You got to be a moron.
Yeah. Well, just the size.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm all for like fighting it out and everything, but there's a point where like sometimes it's just like, what are you thinking?
I believe that I am a more skilled fighter than Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
Guess who's going to win in a fight?
Probably
Brock
Brock
Lesnar.
Lesnar.
Yeah, he's just massive.
I could hit the guy with a 2x4 and he'd be like, ho, ho, ho. He's just
Exactly.
yeah.
So what was your official record for pro fighting?
8-3.
8-3, and those three were the first three. That
No,
you did?
those were my first 3 amateur fights.
Amateur fight. How many amateur fights did you have to
I
do?
couldn't even tell you.
You had to do a bunch of them, probably.
We did a bunch.
Okay.
Yeah, we did quite a few.
What was the common end of it? Like, was it judge's decision or was it submission?
Submission. So
You ever had a knockout? Mm-hmm. Like full, like just punched him down?
unconscious, yeah. But see, one of the problems was I kick very, very hard. Like I just do.
Yeah, I could
kick
see
hard.
that. You still kick hard.
I still kick hard. I used to kick harder, and
That's pretty hard.
it's pretty hard. And
Pretty hard.
but I remember, and I still think it was one of my coach's methods. He would have me warm up, and he would have me hitting tie pads, and he'd have me kicking them, and it sounds like a shotgun going off when I kick tie pad. Pop! It's just like a loud bang, and people would hear it, and they would talk about who it is, and guys would shoot to take me down, and I'd be like, oh, and choke you unconscious because they thought, oh, I don't want to get kicked by that.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I could be wrong, but in my head now, at the time I didn't catch on to it, but looking back at it now, I'm like, was that a play?
He definitely was playing.
I have a really good anaconda choke. So I used to like let guys shoot on me and I'd hit them with an anaconda choke, roll and go. And I did that a lot. I'd kick them once and they'd be like, oh, fuck that. And they'd shoot on me and I'd be like, aha. And I'd anaconda choke them. So, yeah, I don't know. I think that was just like a ploy by him, honestly. Like,
Coaches are.
my coach back here, me and him have a lot of issues. I have a lot of problems with him, but none of them are with fighting, with his coaching. One of the best, even going out to Vegas, I still say he was one of the best coaches I ever had.
Was he like a dick?
Not a good person.
Yeah.
Yeah, just not a good human being. But
He knew how to fight.
and knew how to coach.
Yeah.
Yeah, knew how to coach. I mean, and another perk was a lot of these guys were like, you know, they might train a couple of nights a week. We were training every day. Most of the time, Saturdays. We were training every day, and we were training hours at a time.
Well, that'll toughen you up quick.
Yeah, I mean, like, you look at, so if you do every day at jiu-jitsu with the class we're doing now.
You would, it's just like mastery is 10,000 hours. So it's just like the faster you complete those 10,000 hours, you're like,
Yeah.
the faster you're going to get really
And we
proficient.
live sparred every night, hard. And so, have you guys ever seen the movie Knockaround, guys?
Yeah.
I'm a big movie buff. Okay?
Vin Diesel.
Vin Diesel. There's a scene in there where Vin Diesel walks up to this dude. Long story short, they're trying to find like who's the badass in town, right? And they find the guy, and they basically like pick a fight with him. And Vin Diesel walks up, and he's like 500, and the guy's like 500 what, douchebag? And he spits on his shoes, and Vin Diesel's like, that's how many street fights I used to think you had to be in until you could truly consider yourself a badass. And he goes through this whole thing, and he's like, so I got started real young. And he's like going through this whole talk, and he's like, and you know one of the most important things I learned in the midst of that 500? And the guy's like, listen, dude, I don't really have a problem. And now he's like, it's all solved. And he's like this, and headbutts the dude, beats the snot out of him. But point being, 500, like, he's like, I had to be in 500 street fights.
Oh, yeah.
That's how I needed to do it. And that's what we did every night. Like, we'd fight every night, and we kicked the snot out of each other. It wasn't rolling like we do now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It was
I can see
rolling
that.
and we were punching each other. It was rolling and we were kicking each other. It was stand up into takedown into grappling. I mean, we did
Like,
some hard
there
stuff.
had to have been nights where you just woke up, or I should say in the morning, just sore, not wanting to do it again.
I bet you the first 2 months, even going into school, like I'd go into school, black eyes and my ears were all swollen and whatever else. But there'd be times I'd use the elevator. I couldn't walk up the stairs.
I can see it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, only 32 in your class, so at least you didn't have to wait.
Yeah, and I mean, I'd tell the teachers, I'd be like, yeah, I had a fight this weekend. And they'd be like, okay. I'd be like, I'm using the elevator. I'd just use the elevator. Like,
They wouldn't care.
And somebody's got to use it.
yeah. But my senior year, I went into school with a broken jaw.
Ooh, did you have to wire it shut?
You had to drink out of a
Liquid
straw.
diet. Yep.
Bet you lost some weight on that one.
I was down to like 124 pounds.
That sucks.
I was.
How long did you have to stay on that?
I want to say 6 weeks.
Six weeks.
I think it was 6 weeks. I could be wrong.
Like, do you just-
in my mind it was fucking 48 weeks, but
Do you just eat like Ensure or something, or protein drinks?
Ensure. I did a lot of. We'd do mashed potatoes and butter, and
Bro,
just
I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I can do it.
But I found that. So I used to take Skittles and I would push them in the back of my teeth, like way back here, and I'd squeeze them in so I could suck on Skittles. Like that was
that's
one of
what I-
my.
So you just like sucked too hard one time. And
Yeah. Fucked up story. So as soon as I'm coming, I don't handle anesthesia well. I usually come out real violent. And I came out of anesthesia and I just had surgery on my mouth. So this is how I knew my wife's the one. Okay. This story. This is how I know. My mouth is covered in blood and quag and fucked up stuff. Messed up stuff.
oh,
And I come out and I can't think about this. Grit your teeth like this, right? As tight as you can. Now grit up tighter.
Yeah, I know.
Now lick your lips. No, you can't do that. Your teeth are get together. Go like
Oh,
this. Now lick
shit.
your lips. Can't lick your lips.
oh, that would be so.
Right. So I
Bad.
come out of it and I am yelling at my girlfriend, wife now, to lick my goddamn lips. That girl licked my lips.
Nice.
And I was like, yeah, you know what? You're all right in my book. I'll keep you around.
I'll keep you around.
That was
So-
the indicator.
Yeah, that was it. But that whole ordeal was probably the worst injury I got. I mean, I broke my collarbone, busted a hand. I broke my eye socket, but I broke my eye socket not even fighting. I was young and a guy hit a golf ball at me and hit me in the eyeball with a golf ball. And
You're
broke
lucky
my
you
eye.
didn't
So
lose your eye.
I can't see for crap out of my left eye. Like if I'm looking like this, I can barely read his laptop.
Shoo.
Like I can barely read KNN.
Dude, I
So,
got
yeah.
a buddy who took a firework to the eye last 4th of July, and I mean his eye's all screwed up. Like, they had to remove his lens. It was all black. It was bad. But he those mortar shells that it's like the size of a fist, has a long wick. You drop in a small tube. He threw it into the tube and it wasn't going off. And he looked inside and boom.
Oh my god,
Dude, it was bad. I may have a picture of it, but
See, I had the same thing happen to me, but it wasn't with a firework. It was with I was hooking up like a 500-gallon tank to a sprayer, and like the hoses on them are like
500-gallon water tank.
or herbicide.
Oh, okay.
So it's filled with herbicide, and like these are big ass nozzles, like they're probably 2 inches thick, and like you lock it on, and then you have to lock it together. I remember one time I turned on the pump, and I was like, "What the?" And I was looking at it, and I was like, "Oh, that's weird." And I walked back, was looking to see if like there was something wrong with the pump, and I walked back to the nozzle, and there's nothing. And I remember I looked up, and all of a sudden it was just sprayed me in the face with herbicide. And I remember just like, oh my God, what the? And like, I have my eyes just like bolted shut because I'm like, my eyes are burning right now.
Oh, I bet.
Luckily, I had like 2 or 3 water bottles in the truck. But I remember that, and I was just like, I was just seeing stars for a little bit after it, and I was like, oh shit, did I just blind myself?
that's a scary thought, dude.
Yeah. I've done a lot of weird jobs. Like I did some strange jobs in Vegas, and one of them I used to do was we moved like big concrete statues and fountains and stuff like that. And I don't know how like interested you guys are in some of my random weird Vegas stories, but if you are, I'll tell you some.
Well, let's hear it.
Absolutely.
But one of the times I dropped it was like a big concrete tub, and when it went down, it had a hole in the bottom of it, and we had it upside down so we could like sit it down.
Line it up.
And as I sat it down, that pressure shot all the concrete dust out of that hole, and it went into my eye. And I remember like I went, uh-oh. And my boss went, well, what happened? And I was like, uh-oh, I fucked up. And pure panic. I mean, I've never been so panicked in my life.
Anything with like face stuff, I feel like it's just, you go into panic mode really easily.
Yeah.
Especially like anywhere around the eyes. Because I remember I got hit with this steel pin, like right here, right in the middle of my forehead. This steel pin, we were hooking up a planter, and the planter, we had to get
have a lot of good luck with this planter herbicide.
No, yeah, this is a different thing. But like the hydraulic shaft was kind of stuck, and we couldn't get it off, and so like we were like, well, let's just push this hydraulic shaft all the way open, and then the planter will fall. Like we're like, all right, whatever, because that was the only thing we could do. And I remember taking the pin out of the hitch, putting it on the planter, and this is like an inch pin by like 6 inches, 7 inches, it's just pure steel. I set it on the planter. I step back probably like 6 feet. I tell my dad like, oh, try it. And he goes, and then the planter drops back. The hydraulic thing breaks loose. And then what happens is the hydraulic shaft was holding, the planter can drop on and off. And then there's 2 different steel parts. And so once the hydraulic shaft was gone, it could drop all the way down. And it dropped just perfectly where it shot the steel pin out. And I remember it was like, I didn't even see it coming, but I just remember, boom, and I just like, and it was zero thought at all. It was just like, run. Like something's wrong, just run. Like you just got hit in the head really hard, like you need to just run.
Pure panic again.
Yeah, and I just like ran like 30 feet, and I was just like, oh my God. I'm
So
like,
you're saying you could have been smarter.
yeah.
Yeah, you're a pretty smart guy as it is. You could have been smarter.
Oh yeah, I know, but it was just like and that's like all the injuries with farming are just pure randomness too. It's like just because there's so many different things that, like you might have a part you just fixed or something like that, little intricate parts that it's all just happens. This scenario happens this once, and you're close to it. Then it all gets like you get hurt, whatever.
You're not wrong.
Well, like some of the other, it's like if I was working with a baler, like a lot of the problems with balers is people get hurt in them because they're just stupid with them. Where like farming, it's like you can try not to be stupid, but that stupidity is the only way you can do some stuff sometimes. So it's like, oh, all right.
You made a great Marine, dude. That's exactly how the military is. It's like, the only way we can fix this is a really dumb way.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, it did work. It was just my stupidity. I put the pin, which it was, and like I said, it was just such a perfect like timing because you're talking about the planter itself was dropping off the hitch, so this pin was already falling onto the ground, and it just happened to be just perfectly where it was coming off this one steel beam, and the top was dropping down that it just pinched it just right, just to shoot it out. And I remember my dad telling me afterwards, he's like, boy, that thing hit you and went about 20 feet the other way. And I was like, no shit. And he's like, I remember him, he's like, yeah, it's over there. I remember walking away. I'm like, that's the opposite way it was going towards me. Like it hit my head and went that way instead of like, it was going this way.
It was a hell
It
of a
didn't hit
ricochet.
and glance. It
It
bounced.
hit and bounced.
Yeah.
And like, that was one of those moments that was just pure panic. Just because I didn't know what happened at all. It was so fast. Like,
Right.
and I couldn't even, literally was so fast I couldn't even see it. Like, it wasn't dodge or anything, but I remember after that happened, I was like, oh shit, you could have lost both of them right there.
My older brother tells this story. He swears it happened. He was, and I might get some of the details wrong, okay? But I'm going to try not to. But he told a story about, so when you're in the Marine Corps and you're doing rifle week and you're qualifying, one of the things you do is there's a big berm. And so guys are shooting at targets. And your job, you shoot or you run the targets. You shoot or you run the targets. And when you're running the targets, you basically like stand at the edge of this platform and you throw a target up into the air. And they shoot, and you can hear it when it hits your target. It makes like this very distinct crack, pop. And when they hit, you pull your target down and you mark where they hit, and then you send it back up. They can make their adjustments and shoot again. And I don't remember what it was, how it happened, whatever, but you're not, when it's firing, like you're not supposed to be down below the targets.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Well, there was a drill instructor evidently walking through this thing, and I don't know if Jeremy had to. He only ever told me this story one time, so I don't know if he had to like jump down and grab something and jump right back up. But a drill instructor was walking by, was like, "Hey, Friggy, you stay up there, you understand?" And then his cover went dink, and he pulled off his cover, and there was a bullet hole in his cover that it went through his, like a ricochet went through his cover, and he went. All the guy did was, "Well, how about that trash?" Put his cover back on, and it was off like nothing happened. And
Well, what else is there to say?
right,
Like,
how about that trash? Like, I just remember drill instructors are a weird breed, dude. There's like nobody else like them, and I remember in my head that confirming it. Like, yeah, they're crazy. They're
I can see that. Oh, I mean, like I said, though, what are you supposed to do? It's like, oh shit, I could have just died right there.
Like,
Yeah.
Keep on going.
Yeah, it didn't get me.
Well, and that was the same thing with the planner. Was like after, like maybe 10 minutes after it happened, I was like, well, I probably should go get this stitched up, or it's gonna be like a giant scar.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I'll hook up the planner first. So when we finished hooking up the planner, and then we got finished, I was like, well, I'm gonna go to the.
Attaboy. There
Yeah.
you go. I'll fix this first, and then we'll fix me. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, if like I said, if you guys, I don't know what you want to hear and whatever, but I can definitely tell you some interesting stories.
Anything and everything. Let's hear it.
So I'll tell you about a couple of interesting things about my Vegas life.
Because I know you said you bounced.
Yeah, I bounced all over. Honestly, though, Boots and Bourbon is probably one of the rougher places I've ever bounced.
It doesn't really seem like it's that rough. I mean,
Yeah, but here's the thing. Everybody here has something to prove.
Yeah.
Everybody here thinks they're the biggest fish in the sea.
When they think they know everybody.
Yeah.
Where there, it's like, I'm not going to mess with this guy because this guy could be like a black belt in something.
Right.
Or
Like if you're in a big city, you go to Columbus, you go to Vegas, you go to LA and whatever else, it's bouncers are like the whole bouncing system's borderline militant. But like here, it was perfect example. I was dragging a guy out one time and I wasn't even working that night. I was just there. And the bouncer started getting overwhelmed a little bit. There was a fight that broke out, and he just looked at me and he said, help. And I went, fine. So I went and I grabbed this dude, and I'm walking him out. And if you get a guy leaning backwards at just the right angle, they'll walk themselves. All you got to do is steer them. And so I've like got him there, and he's basically walking. We're going through, and I'm like bouncing into people as we're going toward the exit. And the next thing I know, I felt like I got hit by a refrigerator. I just remember getting boom, and I hit the ground, and all I could think of was cover up this guy because I didn't know what was going on. I didn't want the guy getting hurt. So I cover up this dude, and I'm basically like over top of him covering him. And then I start getting kicked, and I start getting hit. And I start feeling all these jabbing pains in my knees. Well, guys were breaking bottles under my knees.
Jeez.
And they were breaking bottles on my back and all kinds of stuff. And I was getting hit by chairs, and they were kicking me. The next day, I had bruises from my elbow all the way down my hip. My armpits were all bruised up from them kicking me. And it was his buddies, and they were saying, get off of him, get off of him. And then it went from, I was protecting you to, now I'm going to fuck you up. And so I was holding my hands over him, and I was kind of like protecting myself. And whenever there would be a stall, I'd pop up and I'd put one hand on the side of his head and I'd go, and then I'd go right back to it, and then I'd cover up, and then I'd right back to it. And I remember going, I told him, I was like, I'm going to choke you unconscious. And he's like, no. He starts screaming, and I was like, I'm going to choke you unconscious, and your guys can take you out of here, and I'm getting out of here. Like that was the only thing I could think of. But I remember telling him that, like, I want you to know. You're gonna be fine. Okay, yeah. I'm not gonna kill you, but I'm gonna choke you unconscious. And he went into pure panic mode, and I just kind of set him up, and I started squeezing, and I felt him go limp, and I counted to 3. Because as soon as they go limp, if you let go, they'll wake up real fast. And I wanted him to be out for a minute, so I like held on. And I'm like 1, 2, 3, let go, and I stood up, and I just said, "Get your boy," and I took off. And they grabbed him and they took him outside. And as they're carrying him outside, he looked a lot like me. He had a shaved head and a beard, kind of short. And one of our friends thought it was me, this girl, and she starts screaming bloody murder. She thinks I'm like dead. And because she knew what was going on, And my wife grabbed her and was like, he's fine. And all hell's breaking loose. It was like total pandemonium. But I got to the back. I looked at my wife and I was like, meet me in the back. And I got to the back and I had her picking glass out of my knees. I've got scars all over my knees from it. They were kicking glass under me. And so my knees are all scarred up. I had glass all over my elbows. I had big cuts on my back from it. And then a chair got me in the back of the head and it split my ear. That one was rough. That was like the sorest part of me was my ear.
That's like a brawl at that point.
It was bad.
And you didn't even get paid for it.
And I didn't even get paid for it. So, and then I got into the back, and my wife's immediately like, all right, well, let's bandage you up. So she's dumping alcohol on it from the bar and like getting me all cleaned up and getting glass out of my knees and everything else. And I remember being pissed because I tore my pants. They were like a brand new pair of jeans. And I had torn my jeans all to smithereens. And so that one was bad. There was another one where there was a fight, and it was a whole bunch of small guys of a specific group that we'll leave unnamed, but they always cause problems. And I remember having 2 of them in a headlock, and I was standing on one, and there are still people fighting. And I'm like, now what? You know what I mean?
It's like something you'd see in a Western.
I'm holding 2 guys like this, and I'm standing on one, and I remember like, now what? And one of the bouncers came flying in and smoked a dude, and he like hit the ground and bounced. And I was like, there's one. And then he hit another dude. And I'm like, there's two. You got one more. Like in my head, I'm like, yeah, so you can help me. Because these guys are like, they're pinching me and they're biting me and they're doing all kinds of stuff. The one dude kept pinching me in between my legs and he kept trying to grab my balls. And I just kept like wrestling him to the side every time he grabbed me.
But hey, but as a bouncer, let's say if two people are fighting, you're trying to break it up. They're fighting you. You have to fight them. They fall, hurt themselves, possibly death. What happens to you?
Fucked.
Like, are you?
Yeah, it does depend. Like, Boots and Bourbon, I shouldn't say at Boots and Bourbon, I don't know. But at a local, smaller spot, it's likely that the guy doesn't have any sort of legal protection.
Yeah.
You go to some of the bigger ones, they probably do. Like, they're going to take care of you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because obviously they paid you to keep order.
Right. Well, and that's the thing, too, is like bouncing's not just fighting. It's there'd be a lot of times that a scuffle would start to happen, and I'd walk up and, you could do like, hey, how you doing?
You didn't do the whole...
You about done?
You didn't do the whole like roadhouse, like be nice at first?
You do. You always kind of be nice. Like I said.
It
like,
never
hey,
works.
You done? No, it did a lot.
Does it?
And I'm not actually asking you. I'm telling you, you're done.
I don't know if you asked me if I was done that time, but you sure showed me the way to the door.
Probably.
So
there was one guy, they got in a fight. It was over the Ohio State-Michigan game. And
what stupid reason to
full-on brawl to the point where I'm very professional. I'm just going to get you out of there if I have to, But they smashed my wife in the cooler. And I grabbed this dude by the hair and by the back of the head, and I pulled him back. He was a big guy. And I pulled him back, and I got him all the way to the front door, and I'm like squeezing as hard as I can because in my mind, I'm like, if I choke him out, it's going to be really easy to get him out of here. But I got him almost to the door, and he broke loose and spun and swung on me, and I like leaned back, and it touched my nose. I remember his hand touching my nose, and I was like, oh my God. Because I'd have been hurt,
Well, it's like the Matrix when you're dealing with someone that's drunk.
Yeah. I mean,
you feel like you're living in, like, their slow-mo.
Right, but they also don't feel pain.
Exactly. Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
It was scary. It could have been bad. And he was like, what are you going to do? And I said, let's go outside and find out. And he said, fine. He stormed outside. I shut the door and locked it. I was like, yeah, I'm good. Like, I'm not going to fight you, dude.
Yeah.
You're a big guy, and you know what? You're drunk, and I'm good. I was like, let's go outside and find out. And as soon as he walked outside, I shut the door and pulled the pin. And he was just
well, I feel like you being, we're small dudes, whatever, but I feel like the bigger guys you were trying to throw out would put up more of a resistance because they're like, who the fuck is this guy?
They do, and I usually, if that's the case, I'm going to make it very uncomfortable for every time they move.
Yeah,
like I'm gonna lock something up to where
they can't swing or take a shot.
You know what? If you're gonna move, it's gonna hurt really bad. The only way for you to move is forward, or else it sucks. And then I just got to steer you. Like, aim for the door. So,
but like you said, like, they are drunk. Like, though they'll move slower, they have a lot more balls.
And you know what else is a big problem is drugs.
Yeah, that's true.
You get a lot of cokeheads.
Oh, shit. That would be even worse.
I ain't all balled up on coke.
And kind of drunk, too. So they're like, oh, boy.
Yeah.
The wrong person. That's just
like I said, around here, they all think, well, I'm the biggest fish in the sea. And so.
You ever had like a knife pulled on you?
Yeah.
Like, what do you do then?
Get stabbed. I'm like,
do you get stabbed?
That's what they say when you're a cop and you're like trained for. They said if someone pulls a knife, you're probably going to get cut or stabbed. Like it's just inevitable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Come to conclusion that if you're going to take them, you're probably going to get cut.
Yeah. You should probably start pulling some other shit.
Yeah. The best self-defense thing I've ever heard in my life is don't have an ego and run away.
Mm-hmm.
Like.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's another thing, too, is like, for one, you have no idea who you're dealing with in a self-defense situation. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know if you're dealing with Joe Schmo down the road or if you're dealing with, especially nowadays, the amount of guys who are trained in mixed martial arts and jiu-jitsu and whatever else, like, you don't know what you're getting into.
Well, not only that, it's like someone that has nothing to lose either. Like, because those are the ones I really, like, don't want to run into is the people that are like, hey, it doesn't matter what what happens to me. Like, I'm going to get what I want.
Yeah.
That's why cops have all those fancy stuff on their belt because they can't run away.
Yeah.
They got to have all those fancy stuff on their belt.
It's true.
To be able to do something.
Yeah. No thanks.
No.
Run away. I don't like violence.
I'd rather run away than start bleeding from a knife wound.
Yeah.
I don't want to get stabbed.
I've got a cousin who got stabbed, I think twice in the lungs. He got stabbed like once here and once up here.
So you had to get that shit sucked out and everything.
Yeah. And evidently, when he did, he was like, he said every time I inhaled, it was coming in through here and it was going, and he just felt like I'm breathing, but I can't get any air. Like
It's
it was
just
very
blood and
strange.
shit.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
No thanks. No thanks. I'm good.
boy.
I feel like a gunshot would be better than a stab. Like, I'm not talking like someone, because like a stab is completely different than a slash.
Yeah.
Like, though a slash would be.
Sometimes stabs is just, that's it. Just that little thing. But once you like twist or something,
A slash is like you're cutting things.
Yeah.
Like,
Weirdly, I was watching a prison documentary the other day, and a lot of their shivs are more of a slashing weapon rather than a stab. Like
razors and stuff.
Yeah, like, I mean, you should see some of these guys are just, their arms are flayed open because they were just sliced instead of stabbed, which obviously makes it bleed more, causes more damage.
But here's the thing. So if you know much about ballistics, I'd way rather get stabbed because if you get shot, it
it's
creates
a big
wound cavity.
Yeah.
You know, you get hit with a 9mm and it expands and it'll blow up a big
And
bubble.
sometimes they want to go through, hit off a bone or something, go down or some other direction. Or,
That's what 5.56 rounds are designed to do.
Exactly.
bounce around.
From AR-15s or M16s, they hit clip. You might get hit in the hip and it might come out your neck.
Yep.
You know,
That's crazy.
Yep.
yeah. 5.56 is. I shouldn't say I'm a gun guy, but I'm like I enjoy my firearms.
I like firearms.
I like,
Those are fun.
Do you have your CCW? Do you carry it with you?
A lot, quite a bit, not all that often. But I also, though, I think that if you're gonna be like a gun advocate or if you're gonna be like a concealed carry guy, you should be pretty well educated on firearms. You know, like anybody that wants to debate with me about this whole gun thing where they're like, oh, you shouldn't own guns, especially, you know, assault rifles. I'm like, well, what's an assault rifle? And then you start going apart.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
what's not, to me, the main reason why you have like all of this gun shit, just because they're not well educated, is just because it's not taught. Like, I learned about guns from my dad, just because like that was the first thing you took me out hunting when I was a little kid. Like, and I learned about, hey, this thing will kill that thing if you hit it. Realize that like now, like it's dangerous.
I always said we never had a gun problem in America. We have a mental health problem. I feel like I'm pretty well with it, and I have zero desire to shoot anything up.
Well, to me,
but I feel like that if those thoughts are running through your brain, you need help.
Yeah.
Like, and I feel like the lack of like, you know, people being able to talk to other people and people without insurance. You know what I mean? How are they supposed to go talk to like a therapist?
that's why
weird
the answer to that,
it's catch-22.
Yeah.
the answer to that is give everyone guns.
It is a good
Well,
point.
there's countries and
That it's issued. You're issued a gun when you turn 18.
It is very like, which I may be wrong on this, but it's like Sweden or like Denmark, but like the gun ownership's like into the high 90s.
Well, they also have mandatory serving too.
Yeah,
which it wasn't, but like the draft was even past World War II all the way to Vietnam.
yeah.
It wasn't just Vietnam. Like a lot of people would just automatically serve because of the draft.
But
Like
also,
it was the same in the U.S.
I feel like a lot of people in like different countries, that's all they have to look forward to is just serving, you know.
But to me, I think a well-armed populace is a civilized populace. Because if everyone has guns, then I'm not going to shoot you because you might shoot me back.
Yeah,
like,
if I know you have a gun and I know you have a gun and I know you have a gun, I'm going to be a lot less compelled to pull a gun.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, but
100%.
my thing is if I'm somewhere and I don't have a gun, but I see you and you having one, I'm gonna feel pretty safe.
yeah. Oh, hell
You know
yeah.
what I mean? Like,
Right. I've never seen a guy carrying a gun and thought, oh,
yeah,
Yeah.
100% no, yeah.
what's going on here?
But
I think,
you
"Hey,
see
thanks, man."
people, but you
Exactly.
see people throw a fit about a guy open carrying into Walmart or whatever. To me,
And I'm very against open carry.
You're the first target.
Yeah, I don't think you should open carry. I think you should conceal carry.
100%.
In my mind, I'd rather have 15 dudes with a concealed carry than 100 dudes with an open carry.
I think there's a time and place for open carry.
There is. Yeah, there is.
And it's like if
It's just good to have the freedom
Yes,
to
exactly.
do so.
Yeah, you should be allowed to do so.
Exactly.
And I think
Yeah.
it should be, if you want to open carry, outstanding. You know what?
But there
Cool.
are better ways to carry a gun.
But the thing is, I would rather you not know that I have a gun
Right.
than me just blatantly carrying one.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of people do it just.
So that's what I mean.
Possibly for
It's like
show.
if I'm open carrying an AR, like I'm sending a message.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
Like that's what I mean. There's a time and place for it all. It's like it's like during all the riots. I'm looking for a place to loot. Like if some dude has a concealed carry, I'm probably going to try to loot his place regardless, just because I don't know he has a gun. Where it's like,
But if he's standing out there with an
an
M16
yeah,
or an AR-15,
then you're like,
you know.
okay, I'm not going to fuck with this person. Like
Did you guys ever watch that documentary on the?
rooftop Koreans.
Yes. Did you see it?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
He said, I've never heard of this.
No, dude.
That was
Like
the craziest interaction right there. Have you guys seen that?
I knew
Talk
exactly.
to him.
I knew
The
exactly where
rooftop?
you're going with this.
When he said rooftop Koreans, I was like, the fuck? And then when he said, yeah.
I knew exactly where you're going from
But
that.
like during the
the race riot.
yeah during the L.A. riots.
The Asians were trying to call the cops.
Shit, I'm still not over this. Oh my God.
No, that's exactly what it was. Like literally, the cops told the Asians, "You guys are on your own. There's literally nothing we can do."
So
Give
they
me an
just armed the
AR-15
fuck
with a
up
30
and
round.
sat on the roof.
Dude, they were like, but
With guns, yeah.
and they took care of what they needed to take care of.
Well,
Good.
There's a video of like one of the store owners. Like you see these people like shooting, and the balls on this guy. He just walks out in the parking lot out in the open, just starts shooting at him, and like he's not hiding at all. And then you just see the people shooting at him like just taking off because they're like, oh shit, this guy
Yeah.
means business. Like,
Right.
because the biggest thing in like the shooting violence is in the cities. Like you got to worry about strays. Like that's.
Yeah, that's
majority
true.
of the bullets
Strays
don't
are-
hit.
yeah.
Like you just that's why there's so much injuries.
Well,
That was a big thing as a cop was if you're going to shoot, you got to hit them.
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
stray bullets, and you are reliable for every single round that
Exactly.
you pull.
And you hit them like when you shoot tracer rounds. I don't know if you guys have ever shot
I've
tracer
never
rounds.
shot tracer.
They'll hit stuff and you'll see them shoot.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
just bounce and do all kinds of crazy stuff. And rounds, when they hit things, they don't continue to go straight.
Well, it's like even just shooting at water. Like
Yeah.
if you have a high enough powered rifle, it skips first.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't just go in the water.
No.
Like if you just hit it right at the right angle, it'll just skip.
You ever seen those people shoot at ice and the bullet just
Spins?
Yeah, that-
Yeah, I don't know
always
if that's
thought that-
true. I've never.
No,
They'll
I don't
shoot
know.
them and you'll hear it like, and I think the
Like
conditions
laser
are- it
sounding.
sounds like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then you'll find it and it's sitting there just spinning like a top on the ice.
Well, the sound probably has something to do with the ice being just right. Because
Yeah.
it's like
Which I'm sure it's probably super thick ice, and I'm sure it's in Russia
well,
or
even
something. But
I'm just saying, like,
you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like,
oh, yeah.
100% Russian. Yeah.
But like there's ice skaters in I don't know the Norwegian countries or something that skate on thin ice, and you can hear it as they go over. It's like
Yeah,
it's
no.
not cracking.
No
it's
thanks.
like echoing.
No, I'm good.
But the bullet on ice, I feel like it probably would do something weird like that.
Probably. But see, this is the big thing is like,
Anyone who's
we're
educated,
having an educated
Yes.
conversation right now, and we clearly know a thing or two about firearms.
We're not just like, okay, we're just gonna shoot at the ice, and
Yeah.
and that's probably the part of the reason none of us have tried it because
Yeah.
we're like, oh, this
That
doesn't
doesn't
seem
make
like the
sense.
great
yeah,
idea.
it looks cool.
Yeah.
The video looks real. I'm just gonna leave it at that. Like I'm not gonna try it.
Right. But one of my biggest issues with the current gun grab crap is that most of the people calling for gun grabs don't know a thing about firearms.
Oh,
Or they
nothing at
probably
all.
never even touched a gun.
Well, and the
in
other
their
thing, it's
entire
so
life.
hypocritical hearing it come from people that are like have armored guards, like
Yeah.
bodyguards that are armed,
And
like,
they'll be like, yeah, this is a ghost gun. It's 30 magazine clip, caliber
Yeah.
20. No, it's an AR-15. It's a lightweight, magazine fit.
it's like right when I make it instead of metal wood, then it's like,
I,
oh, it's a hunting rifle.
There was I hate when people like an AR doesn't stand for assault rifle, right?
no, it's armor
ar-
rifle.
No,
Yeah,
Armor light.
so-
it's a company.
Model
Yeah,
15.
but every time you hear about an AR, they always call it an assault rifle.
Well, that's the whole point is to have you want a broad, if I'm trying to take something from someone, especially utilizing the legal aspect of it all, you want it broad so you can encapsulate as much
Everything.
possible into it.
So here's the thing. You can take an AR-15 and make it your scary version, and then you can put it in a wood stock.
Exactly.
But here's exactly what it is, okay? And this is going to be a rant, but it is a lightweight, magazine-fed, gas-operated, air-cooled, shoulder-fired weapon which fires a 5.56 millimeter round at 3,100 feet per second. Max effective range is 3,534 meters. Point target is 550, and area target is 800 meters. It's made up of three main parts. It's an upper receiver, a lower receiver, and a bulk carrier group. It's a cycle of operations. It's feeding, chambering, locking, firing, unlocking, extracting, ejecting, cocking.
Oh, yeah.
It is the exact same thing in both things. The exact same thing, but one's illegal and scary, and one is not.
Well, I just think to myself, it's like, we have a Mauser, and a Mauser is 8mm, 7.92, and it's like, dude, I could shoot like 3 people lined up. I could shoot like 5,
yeah,
and go
and
completely clean through it
Feeding,
all.
chambering, locking, firing,
Exactly.
unlocking, extracting, ejecting, cocking. Exact same firing sequence.
Did you have
exact
to
same
memorize
thing.
that for the military?
No, I just have that memorized. But
Take a
it
breath.
is the exact same thing, but one of them's scary. And one of them's not. And they're trying to ban the scary one because we carry the scary one in the military.
Yeah.
And it makes no sense to me.
When it's like right when you put on a pistol grip at the end,
Yep.
then it gets even scarier. Then they're like, oh, this is a bomb.
It's in order to control it in fully automatic
Need to put a
mode.
bayonet at the end. of
Yeah.
that.
Oh, bring back the bayonets.
Bring back
You
the
should.
bayonets.
Oh yeah.
100%.
Well, it's like not only that is you can on hunting like wood rifles like the Mauser, you can put a grenade launcher on it. Like what the like that's the thing that's never made sense to me. It's like you're getting mad at this thing that's it looks like that because it's mass produced mostly. It's because that's the best way that they could mass
To make
produce
them
it.
easily
Yeah,
customizable.
exactly.
And they're easy to take apart and clean and everything. Super easy.
But
Some
and it's
simple
like
gun.
they're scared about that, and it's like, dude, you could literally get grenade launchers for guns, like, and you're mad about like something like that. Like, don't get me wrong, I think you should be allowed to have a grenade launcher for sure.
If I can
think,
afford an F-16, I think I should be able to have an F-16.
yeah, exactly. I think when they meant the right to bear arms, they meant all ammunitions. Like,
Short of nuclear weaponry, I think
Exactly.
we should probably be allowed to own anything we want.
Absolutely.
but it's like it's all like a semantics argument now, and that's the thing worries me because there's never like a logical outcome to an argument on semantics because it's always just like, oh well, I think the definition's this, then I think the definition's this, and you'll never be able to reach a conclusion at all.
Society is so easy that they have to find something to worry about, something to fight about or to complain about always, and they always find the scariest, so-called scariest thing that
Most killings with guns are handguns.
exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's more deaths with knives than there are guns.
Hammers.
Yeah.
Well, if you take China, who you're not allowed to privately own a gun, they still have murders.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's
Most
what I
of them are
mean. You
coming
ban it. Banning anything never works, and I don't know why.
Like in I'm pretty sure in England, you're not allowed to even having a pocket knife anymore.
Yeah, except
Yeah,
now it's
Pocket
still
knife, and yet they
stabbings.
still have crap going
Yeah.
on over there.
I'm a big fan of guns. I'm a big supporter of guns. I do think we need more. I believe it should be harder for people to get guns because I feel like they're falling into the hands.
I still
of the
feel
wrong
like it's,
people.
Most of them are stolen anyways.
Yeah.
well. And the other thing about it is 3D printers are getting really good, and it's getting they're getting to the point where you're not going to be able to stop people from making that shit anywhere. Where it's like,
do you think right now you can make a firearm with what you have, or have you already?
no.
Solid.
But I'm just saying,
But
like,
it's not far from that
no,
point.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's like we're reaching like an Oedipus of it's not. You can't stop it all. Eventually, like. It seems like humans throughout all of our modern day civilization, we've always went towards anything that decentralizes us more. So it's like in the age of enlightenment, we separated the church and the state, and then the era of logic kind of took place, and you had all of these philosophies and whatever start to be made. Not to say that there wasn't philosophy before that, but then you had the Americans wanting to rebel against the state completely and form their own country. And then you see like modern day cryptocurrency is decentralization, like at the peak. It's complete decentralization. And I think the people want to be more free, even though they might not say it. I know that sounds like I'd hate to say
is there. The government is there to protect you from foreign governments,
not your own.
And that's about it.
Yeah.
That's why we have states. We're the United States of America for a reason.
Well, it's like why people are like, oh, well, what about the Department of Education? What about public schools? And it's like, before the Department of Education and before public schools, we had public schools. It was just the states determined what was taught and what needed to be taught and whatever.
Well, and if you get the government, this is coming from a person in the military. The government is the most inefficient at everything.
Oh, definitely.
They're awful.
Anything the government touches will break.
95% of the place I work for is the government, and they are awful at what they do.
Well, it's like if you look back at the Spanish flu. During the Spanish flu, government probably made up like 5% GDP, meaning like government spending was 5% of our entire GDP. And during the Spanish flu, our GDP really didn't move at all. Like, it's not like it was affected. Nowadays, we're talking like government spending is way 50, 60%.
Yep.
And it's like, what happened last year is our GDP completely collapsed. And it's like...
Yep. Well, and we're also taking... We have a system currently that is unsustainable.
No, 100%. They're just kicking the can down the road constantly. And it's like, you can't... And that's why I'm so hopeful with cryptos. It's like, it's a way, because the way the government has so much power right now is because of finance. It's the only reason why they have the much power as they do. Because if they didn't have that much money, they would be worried about people that us citizens were like, hey, what are you doing? You're spending too much money or something like that. Because we actually had the ability to fight against it. But now it's at a point where the government has so much of the power over the currency, and there's so much vastness of currency that they've literally pushed down 90% of the population.
Right. And one of the big problems is that in order to become wealthy, you have to outrun the federal government.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's almost impossible.
Yep.
So that was one of my big issues with the stimulus checks. So
there's no free lunch.
Everybody thinks that inflation is the increase in price. It's not. It's actually the drop in the value of money. A great way to... I heard this one time, and a great way to put it is this. If all four of us are in this room and we want to buy that bottle of water, and me, Dominic, and you have $1, but you have $5, who's probably going to get that bottle of water? You, right? What if we all had $5?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, then it's all right. I get it. But then what if he has $20?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, now $5 isn't worth much
It's always
money.
a bigger fish.
Yeah, so if we just keep pushing money at everything, it's like...
Well,
the history repeats itself, just like in Germany, where they had a like a bucket or like a
wheelbarrow,
for
a loaf of bread. Well, that's the thing is here's the other thing is you can look at inflation not only like how you're saying it, but it's like if you look back to the USSR, they were plenty rich. Like a majority of people were rich, but they had nothing to buy.
Right.
So that's the other side effect of inflation is it creates literally a drop in supply, and that causes these prices to go so high.
Look at right now.
Stagnant of money.
Yeah, well, like as the prices are increasing, you have the government's like, well, what are we going to do? We're going to print more. Fire up the printers, Jerry. Let's get it going. Print, baby, print.
It's happening now because we have people who don't have to work.
No.
And guess what? I can't go out to eat whenever I want to now because restaurants are closed because they can't find enough workers because the government's supplying these people with money. So now it's like, okay, well, I have my $2,500 check that I got from the government, but I can't go spend it on what I wanted to spend it on because there's no workers.
I'm going to get it in like a year or two. I'm not going to get it at all.
Well, and the other way to look at it is it's like minimum wage in the 60s, which I'm against the minimum wage anyways, but it's minimum wage in the 60s was like 5 silver quarters, which is about an ounce of silver. 5 silver quarters now is an ounce of silver still, and an ounce of silver is like $25. And it's like right there shows you how they rob you blind with how the government does.
Well, did you see that thing to where like you could work part-time? This might have been in the 60s or 70s, but you could work part-time still afford a place to live, still afford tuition to like Harvard, and be fine. But now, how much is Harvard a year?
Well, and
Yeah,
have,
but that's again the government getting involved.
because in the other
The
aspect
government
of
gives a
that,
bunch of loans out to people, and we'll get the money.
like you could support yourself like that, not only because of what you're saying, but also because we didn't double the workforce yet. It's only till recently that we've completely, like, you know, when I say double the workforce, we've at like since it wasn't since the 70s that women were taking on all of these jobs. And it's like, as you double the workforce, the employers are still going to be like, hey, we're going to charge the same price because we have double the amount of population to choose from. So wages aren't going to go up because they have a double the amount of pool. So it's even like everything's compounding on top of this.
Yeah.
Not to say, I'm not saying that like in the aspect that, oh, well, women shouldn't have jobs or whatever. It's like, no, it's telling everybody they should. That's the problem I have with it. It's like, I think everyone should have their own opportunity. And even before the 70s, before feminism, whatever, like there was plenty of women high up, and people often forget that. Like a lot of university heads, my great aunt worked at a university, and the government, and it's where I'm going with this is like you see a lot of people, especially around our age, that are like, well, this is capitalism. This is a result of like all of the richest of the rich are hoarding all the money and whatever. And it's like, no, like the only reason the rich are just being smart with the money. That's why they're gaining so much money is because they're being smart with it.
You know that book I was talking about that you read,
Curse of Jekyll Island,
the Creature of Jekyll Island,
the
Creature of Jekyll Island. It's one of the best books I've ever read.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
It was Creature of Jekyll Island.
Yeah.
You have to
Creature
tell me
of
that.
Jekyll Island.
Remind me of that.
It's very thick. It's a little dry, little
oldish style.
But the idea is this guy basically was like, I'm going to write a mystery book of how they took over the money system. And he does a very good job at it. But one of the things that blew me away is, banks, first off, you use fiat money, which we used to have money that was backed by gold. Right. Now,
73, Nixon removed it.
Yep. The only thing that
71.
backs our government or our money now is basically we're
God.
like, we have the most powerful military in the world. That's about the only.
Well, I mean, if you want to,
everyone accepts that a $20 bill is $20.
Yeah.
the other way, if you really want to be technical about it, the thing that does back our dollar is the petrodollar, which is which is OPEC, which is we're losing that right now. Like that's why that's why they're so people are flipping about Afghanistan too. Is just because there's a lot of oil there. There's a lot of that's a whole different story.
Yeah. But so you have fiat money that's not backed by anything, and then the banks started doing fractional reserve banking.
Exactly.
And the fractional reserve banking made sense at first, which is like, so essentially, let's say I'm a gold guy and I have the gold in the bank, and you want to take out some of your gold, and you have a slip that says I have this much gold in the bank. Well, not everybody's going to come take out their gold at the same time, so I can lend out more notes than I have gold. 50%, right? Now it's less than 1%.
Well, now it's zero.
Yeah, it's literally like
they just dropped that before the pandemic. It went from like 10%. Dude, they removed it. Now you don't have to have any backing at all.
Nothing. So the bank doesn't have to have 1% of the money that they actually have.
Yep.
Well, here's what that does.
It's all just digital right now.
And then they know that the bank's going to crash. They know that their bank's going to crash. And then what they do is they take an insurance out on when their bank crashes, and that insurance is the federal government. So then when the bank crashes, the federal government's like, yeah, but you didn't actually crash. You're good. Here's the money. And then it's like, oh, yeah. And then you know what they do? They do the exact same thing over and over again. But that isn't real capitalism.
No.
It's crony capitalism.
Exactly.
That's daddy coming to save you.
Well, and that's what I'm pretty pertinent. I'm pretty strong on the idea
100%.
that crony capitalism leads to socialism because
socialism
leads to communism. Every time. And that's what I'm like. It aggravates me hearing especially people around my age saying oh, this is why we need socialism and stuff. And it's like, no, this is what socialism is. What they're describing, what I hear a lot of the the groups and all of them, the men and women, especially coming from colleges, is that it's well, there's the top 1% has all the wealth, and it's That is so. We are in the socialist paradise. Like this is what you're wanting. Like you want somebody to hoard all of the wealth, and that just be the government.
Yeah, my 6-year-old just read Animal Farm the other day.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Have you guys ever read Animal Farm?
Absolutely.
She just read Animal Farm the other day. I read it to her. My 6-year-old got it.
Yeah.
She was like,
Oh yeah.
wait. And I'm like, yes. Yes. Like, oh my God.
My my nephew is 13 years old, and when he was like 7, he was reading like Harry Potter's. He's smart. Kid's stupid smart.
Kids are-
But he came up to my brother, and he's like, "Why does the federal government take money from our checks when we work? Like, why is that? Like, we earn that money." Like, he was 7 years old, and he was like, "Why are they doing?
Yeah, why
this?"
did they do that?
I was like,
So we brought that in what was it, 1913?
1912 or 1913, something like that. The
was when they
laws
brought it
passed.
in. But the biggest reason they wanted to stop it because they were concerned it would get as high as 17%. They were scared to death that it could get as high as 17%.
the federal income tax.
Yeah. Now we're paying 40.
I mean,
Yeah,
if you really look at it,
federal
it's
income
like
tax is stupid.
the income tax. I don't think, from what I've read, it's like it wasn't ratified completely. So it's because it was a voluntary tax. The income tax was voluntary, and it wasn't until like you indoctrinated a generation or two into that, thinking that it's not voluntary, it becomes mandatory.
Yeah.
That's where we're at.
I think because I believe it was Greece used to do this. Don't get me wrong, but I think it was Greece. It was a thing where if you were to the point where you could pay federal income tax, it was like an honor.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah,
hey,
'cause you're
I worked
yeah.
to the point where now I'm a member of society that can give some money to the system to help make
Well,
it
and that's
function.
why it wasn't mandatory. It was like I would pay into the income tax because it's like I'm producing so much money in this area. I'm going to pay into the income tax just so I can help the infrastructure of my area.
Right.
So it's
'Cause
like
then
I'll pay
It's
it-
another investment.
You
though.
knew what you were paying into, which is why I think like we have the answer to government. That's cryptos already because it's like you could literally. The governance abilities of blockchain is incredible. Like you can specify every single place that your money could possibly go if you were paying taxes through
and it's
crypto.
completely unhackable.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Until there's quantum computers, which that's got a long ways till it is. But
Well,
once
they don't
there
even
is,
know if it'll actually
yeah.
work now.
Well, and
They're
it will-
finding it might not ever be a thing.
well, not only that is right when you get quantum computers, then you just build a blockchain on the quantum computer.
Right.
That's
Aren't those aren't they super sensitive and they have to be in like a very
well, yeah, that's what I mean. It's not
very-
consumer or even professional like
Yeah.
use. Like there's professional uses of quantum computers, but nothing like you would think they would need to be used for. Like
Right.
what we're thinking.
Yeah. But I mean, you're not wrong. Crypto is like the ultimate.
Because that's like the thing. It's like I don't mind
know.
paying taxes.
Revolution.
Like I would pay taxes, but as long as I knew where my taxes were going.
Right. And
Like don't get me wrong, taxation is theft. I believe that, but it's like
there is a purpose to some tax.
yes, you need
There
some
is
tax
some
to like. I'm not like an anarchist libertarian that's like we don't need anything.
well, Ron Paul had the right idea
Exactly.
with libertarianism.
Yeah.
Love Ron Paul.
Libertarianism lost me a few years back.
Mm-hmm.
And like even Rand, there's times where I listen to Rand and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And then there's times I listen to him and I'm like,
Well, that's why like
you know,
whenever people ask me like my political association, I'm like I don't really lean to any party. I'm classically liberal. I mean, it's like I just want liberty for all, and like we have.
classically liberal doesn't exist anymore.
I know.
No,
The
it does
last
not.
liberal
Yeah.
to ever run was JFK.
Yeah.
And look what they did to him.
Yeah.
And then like now, like I was a big Tulsi Gabbard fan.
Tulsi Gabbard was sweet.
Yeah, she's one of the few Democrats currently that I'd probably
She's not
vote
running for president anymore though.
I can't blame her.
No, yeah,
I
she just
can't
got
blame
screwed
it. but,
the
like,
entire way.
It sucks.
But Democrats aren't actually liberal anymore. They're, in fact, they've gotten to the point where they're anti-liberal. Like to me, the liberals were always like, you know what? Say what you want, do
Yeah.
what you want, fuck who you want, marry who you want, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
As long
They
as
just
it's not
semantics.
victim.
They
Yeah.
changed the meaning of the word.
And now it's like, no, you're going to say what I want,
Yeah.
and you're going to do what I
and
want.
that's the people don't realize like the political spectrum of left and right. Like they say like, oh, the far right is like Nazis, whatever, and it's like
That's not actually true.
it's not true. They're National Socialist Party, but regardless, and they say like on the left is the communists or whatever, and it's like it's not like there's two ends to it. Both ends are connected. It's a
Right.
circle.
Yeah.
Where it's
I've
like
often said that I'm so far right, I often come back around to the left.
Exactly.
Like it's
it's like both ends of the
Yeah.
spectrum
Yeah.
are too much. Like
Yeah.
that's the whole point of the spectrum. It's like you want to be somewhere in the middle at least. Like that's where you can at least agree on things.
and that's why we have a republic,
Exactly.
not a democracy. And everybody wants to say we have a democracy,
No.
and I'm like, no, the fuck we don't.
I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic,
republic.
for which it stands. Well, not only that, it's like anyone who's read history or like The Republic by Plato, it's like democracy does not scale at all. Like you cannot scale democracy. It
And it's
works in
mob
small.
rule.
Yeah, exactly. That's why you can't. It's like in small little packs, it works, but outright democracy on large scales, you're putting into
Well,
consideration parts that you never even will be in your entire life. Like,
Even in a small scale, though, like
Yeah, it
right
doesn't
now,
work
this is all
well.
your equipment, right?
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's ours.
yeah, exactly.
Go on, stop us. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah, there's a middle ground that people like aren't remembering exists. I guess.
correct.
It's like that's where, because you can't even talk to like certain people now. It's even both sides. Like
Both sides. And my biggest issue is you have people on the right that are like, but it's all them. You can't have a conversation.
Yeah.
I'm like, is that why when I talk to you, you tell me I'm a Democrat?
yeah, exactly.
And then, but when I talk to my Democrat friends, they're like, you're clearly a Republican. And I'm
yeah,
like, am I though? Yeah. So
well, that's like I feel great being like as classically liberal as fuck, just because it's like you guys are both commies. Like
you're both communists.
yeah, like
Yeah, you are both communists. That's like, okay, if we're getting out of Afghanistan and everything, can we get rid of the spy bills? Can you stop spying on me then?
Exactly.
You think that's going to happen? No.
because both parties are benefiting from that. And it's like our whole problem right now is that the government is not for the people at all anymore. And it's both sides. Like both sides have been completely alienated. And that's why we've had these giant swings in people. It's like the average
That's
person
how
is
we had
yeah.
Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton.
Yes.
Like that's how that happened. was
Exactly.
these and you know what? Like I didn't vote for Donald Trump, and I wasn't a huge Donald Trump fan. But if you don't understand how people didn't want Donald Trump, you're just lying to yourself.
Exactly.
Like, what? I can see how they wanted that guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. And like I didn't vote for him either, but it's like I see how he's populist. He's one of the all he did was and this could have worked for the other party too, was just like I want to help you, not the government.
Right.
Like, and that's all, and that blows my mind. It's like that's all it took was some guy that was like, I'm only talking about the people. And it's like I said, I didn't vote Trump. Like it's not that I'm a Trump supporter or something. It's like I see what he was doing
And why people
wanted to. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's like
but then like what really blew me away is so we've never had a guy hated like Trump.
no.
And then they ran Hillary Clinton. Like, what? In my head, I was like, that's who you brought to the table?
Well, and that's what I
to
mean.
box Trump?
It's
Like,
the extremes of the spectrum.
Yeah.
It's like on both sides. It's like everyone on the right thinks like Hillary Clinton's like the devil.
Yeah.
While on the opposite ends, it's
all
all
think
of the
Trump's
Trump is
the big
devil.
bad orange man.
And that was one of my big issues with this whole Biden ordeal. I do not know a single person that voted for Biden because they wanted Biden.
No, yeah.
They didn't want Trump.
That's what I'm saying. And that's the problem with direct democracies is like, and that's why you have these such swings is because you're watching what happens when states remove the republicness of their state, like of being a
Listen,
state.
I'm just going to tell you. I know that I'm going to nerd out for a second. Okay, you have got to read the book Red Rising.
Okay, yeah,
You
yeah.
have to.
Red Rising.
Red Rising.
Okay.
It's everything that we talk about. We're heading that way. Okay, and it starts that they they go to Mars and whatever else, and they colonate Mars and all this other stuff, but they end up forming a republic and how the struggles they go through it and all this other stuff. It is a brilliant book. The first book is kind of very small scaled. It's like a lot of building the main character.
The plot and like character build up and
Yeah,
the
it's
backstories.
developing a lot of whatever. The second book and the third book, it's like, oh. And then they have a fourth and a fifth book too. And in the fourth and fifth book, it's a lot of the politics of it.
Okay.
And it'll blow you away. But for anybody listening that's never heard of it, the idea is all of society is broken into colors, and your color determines where you are in the social spectrum. So if you're a red, you're basically a slave. If you're a bottom red, you're like a low red. You're a minor. Then you've got like violets who are like entertainers and artists, and then you have like grays that are military and police, and then you've got obsidians, which are like these big giant. They're like specialists. They're bodyguards and stuff like that. They're huge, but at the top is the golds, and they're like the ruling society, and they're like conquerors. But they use a lot of old school methods in how they run their society. And all of it's very ancient and very dated, but they use it as like a way to control their society. And then the main character, I mean, it's the same in every story. It's not like I'm spoiling anything. He comes in and he puts a big crash in the system and whatever else. And they break away from this society into like another realm of
I'm definitely going to check
government.
that out.
Yeah, it sounds pretty sweet.
It's pretty wild. I always describe it like Game of Thrones in space, man. Like it's an absolute blast. So but the reason that I brought it up is because of the politics of it.
Okay.
It's like once you start really figuring out how the struggles they go through with going from what they had, because it's not just the fact that they have to build this new government. They have to build this new government and get the people to go with it. A lot of these people don't want to go through the struggle of getting through to this new form of government. And I hear that a lot.
Oh, it's right now.
Right now, I hear it a lot. It's like
People want comfort.
Yeah.
Our minds are made to find comfort. Easiest way out.
This part, the live for more, one of the girls in the main character's wife, she gets killed. And when she gets killed, right before she hangs, she looks at him and she says, live for more and break the chains, and then falls and gets hung. Right.
I'll definitely check that out.
That sounds like a pretty sweet book.
So like my little girl, Zayla, I'll tell her that all the time. I'm like, hey, Zayla, live for more. And she always looks at me and says, break the chains. Like that's our thing.
Well,
So,
I think that's a perfect spot to end it.
I think so too. Hell, we've been going for a minute, huh?
Oh, yeah.
That's about,
I
think
about
I'm
2
about-
hours.
2 hours?
Yeah, we're about
Is that about 2 hours right
Yeah.
close to it.
Yeah.
I just say that because I know that we're almost maxed out my memory card.
Well, good.
on my computer.
I brought in a good one. I'm always an extremist, man.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like,
I love this. Yeah. I'm glad you guys came on.
yeah, it was
I'm
fun
glad
too.
We got to do
I
this
felt
again.
more comfortable the second time.
Oh,
than the
it's for
first
sure.
time.
Yeah.
Well, after like an hour, it actually feels like you're just
flow.
talking.
Yeah, you just flow.
All
Yeah, it
of
was
this
good.
disappears.
Yeah, and you know what though? It was cool
Well-
because I got to learn more about all three of you guys today than I have the entire time that we've been
Oh,
doing
yeah.
it. And I love that.
You know what? The first time you like told me that the camera was on, and like instantly, in my head, I thought just hundreds of people are watching me right now. I was like, oh no! But like this time, you didn't say anything about
Yeah.
the camera being on. And like I felt the first time I was like nervous. I feel, but
I get that.
You get used to it really quick.
Well,
I just figured the worst thing is going to happen. I'm going to fuck this up.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well.
If I say something stupid, I don't really care. I don't care what people think about
Yeah.
me, so I'm just gonna go with it.
But I think it was a good solid discussion. We talked everything from MMA to bouncing to
Government,
Government.
to taxation and stuff.
taxation,
Yeah.
books, guns, yeah, all kinds of stuff. By the way, I totally want to come check out your house.
anytime, dude. Seriously, like I
Yeah.
said, if you like this, you will love my house. But it's just.
Yep.
See, to me, this is like real uplifting. Like mine's kind of just
Dark.
real dark, I guess. Like
Perfect.
I try to make things uplifting. It just didn't really fall
love
that
it.
way.
I'll love it. I'm a big horror fan.
No.
Not horror.
Horror.
I'm
fan.
both, but-
Fair enough.
Both.
hey,
You can
free
come
world. You can do whatever you want.
You can come over and check out my doll collection.
There you go.
All righty.
Good, man.
You guys got anything else? One last moment.
I don't think so.
I think we're good.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
I enjoyed it. Thanks for having
Yeah.
us for sure.
Thanks for coming on.
I'd-
We'll definitely got to do it again.
I'd love to be back.
All righty.
Definitely back. Don't
Yeah, if I end up coming back from Vegas,
Yeah, let me know. We'll definitely
yeah.
get you
We'll
back
throw
on.
one in.
Hell yeah.
I'll tell you about doing all the weird jobs that I do out there too. So
We just really want to hear about the Raiders Stadium. Nothing else. Nothing else.
nothing else, just the Raiders. I'll tell you, it looks like Darth Vader.
Yeah, that's why they call it the Death Star.
It is wild.
Oh, that's pretty sweet.
It is wild. So
All righty.
We'll
All
see you
right, man.
guys.
Peace.
See ya.